Kevin De Bruyne has announced that he is leaving Manchester City at the end of the season. The Belgian playmaker is leaving the Etihad after 10 seasons at the club. The 33-year-old helped lead City through the most successful period in club history, winning 16 trophies, including 6 Premier League titles and the 2023 Champions League title. Pep Guardiola addressed the De Bruyne news this morning and hailed the Belgian playmaker as one of the greatest in Premier League history. Take a listen.
Sad day, a happy day for the fact that the pleasure personally that we live, or I live this time with him. What he gave us, all of us, his humanity, and of course, don't necessarily tell his influence in our success in the last decade. That will be impossible to imagine, without him. And a sad day because, of course, it's part of us, he's leaving. So when Vincent left, or Sergio left, or David Silva left, and these players have been contribution, and I will say more names, so these example 3. Of course, it's a time that, it's a sad day. So, but still we have 10 games and hopefully 11 and 6 games at home that we can enjoy with our fans, and he will get, I'm pretty sure, the love and the recognition that all of us, fans of course, that he deserves.
Now, De Bruyne announced the news on social media this morning, saying in part, quote, "Football led me to all of you and to this city. Chasing my dream, not knowing this period would change my life, this city, this club. These people gave me everything. I had no choice but to give everything back, and guess what? We won everything." For more on De Bruyne's departure from City, we are joined by the one and only Geoff Shreeves to break this all down for us and give us your opinion on De Bruyne's departure. Hi, Geoff.
Hi, Hannah. I think the first thing I would say is, listening you to trot out those numbers there, those are incredible numbers, and that's not even including his assists as well. But what the numbers don't tell you is the sheer artistry with which he played the game here in this country. An absolutely magnificent footballer on a different level. He's arguably one of the best Premier League players of all time. That's how high the bar is when you're talking about Kevin De Bruyne and what he achieved at Manchester City. He's definitely one of their best ever players, and that will be a hotly contested debate right now. Other players have had statues erected for them outside of the Etihad. No question. He deserves his place alongside them. Quite simply, he's been magnificent. He's been the heartbeat of the team. The news itself isn't a massive surprise because injuries, end of contract, his age have restricted his appearances of late. This has really been talked about for the last season and a half, I would say. It's fairly typical Kevin De Bruyne to announce it himself on his own Instagram. I thought it was a lovely message. It was a heartfelt message, an emotional message, a very poignant one. Yes, it is, Pep Guardiola in his press conference this morning, his first reaction was, it's a sad day, but also it's joyous that we've all got to see him and to witness his, and let's be honest, sometimes it's an overused word, but at times he was an absolute genius with the football on the pitch.
Looking at those pictures, it's incredible to understand how he has grown older with Manchester City. He was there from the beginning up until now, experiencing this whole revolution under Pep to become one of the greatest midfielders in Premier League history. I think of another legendary midfielder that City had in David Silva. Geoff, do you think he's more than David Silva?
Oh, come on, Nico. That's like you asking someone to name their favourite child in front of all 3 of them. It's impossible. You're talking about such stellar talents, aren't you? And off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you David Silva's tally. But again, equally. Well, as I said just now, there's a statue of David Silva. Right. So Kevin De Bruyne certainly deserves one, doesn't he?
So if there's a Mount Rushmore, if there's a Manchester City Mount Rushmore, I would imagine Kun Agüero, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne makes that, and there's room for one more. Like, we're talking about one of the greatest ever players of Manchester City leaving, and this is despite my ignorance. I don't know, previous to the takeover, I don't know if there's somebody that would be a candidate to break into that top four.
Are you saying that Vincent Kompany didn't do anything for the club? Is that what you're trying to say?
That's another one. Yeah, that could very well be. That could be the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, but the reason we're having this back and forth, Nico, is because they've won so much in that period, haven't they? And that's why there's these great discussions. But Kevin De Bruyne, without a shadow of a doubt, actually, you could argue, if they hadn't put a statue up already, who should be in there? I would go as far as to say, well, you'd have to guarantee that Kevin De Bruyne is in there. And that's without being disparaging to the others who already stand outside the stadium, because he really, really was that good. So many memorable moments from him. But the injuries, they started to take their tally. I think, as I say, he's only started 19 games this season, so it's been difficult for him. But the big question is, of course, there's two questions. Where is he going to go? Will it be the MLS or will it be Saudi? Because clearly he can still play, he can still contribute something, but as a player gets older in their career, it's in a different manner. It's not necessarily starting every single game. And also, his contract runs out halfway through the Club World Cup. So will that be his swan song for Manchester City? Pep pretty much said, well, it's up to Kevin. I think they afford him that respect, and quite rightly, depending what move he has lined up. But he could still yet feature in the Club World Cup. It's a possibility at this stage.
Geoff, I would love to know your thoughts. When I'm looking at De Bruyne's season and at the start, it kind of felt from an outsider's perspective there was maybe a little bit of a breakdown of communication between him and Pep, or maybe the relationship wasn't what it was. But because for me, would you not want to keep a player like Kevin De Bruyne around from an experience perspective, or just let him go? I feel like he's still, he might not play as much, but he still had so much to give. Wondering what your thoughts would be on that kind of relationship.
Yeah, Jen, I get where you're going. It's that old adage, isn't it? When they're good to have around the dressing room, but sometimes that can be a little bit inhibiting for other players coming through. He is a Manchester City captain, so his stature is assured, but he's also, I don't know how much you've seen him interviewed, but when you interview him, he can be very, very direct. He can be quite forthright. He can be quite sharp, but he can also be quite humorous as well. He's got quite a nice self-deprecating way about him at times. And also as well, again, I think, Jen, I would refer back to what Pep said just now. It's down to him, because this is his choice. So he might feel he wants to play. He might feel that he wants to, that as a player yourself, as you get towards the latter stages of your career, yes, you have that stature. Yes, you have that importance to the dressing room. But how much do you want to eke out as much as possible from your body, from how many games you want to be playing? You might drop back further in the field. You might dictate play in a different way. Who knows? Kevin De Bruyne may already have a club lined up where they say, okay, this is our plan for you. This is how we see it. And this is the next 2 years. And there's a contract on the table now. And this is what we want to build around you, even though we are aware you're not the same player that you were 10 years ago. So I think that's a factor too. But absolutely, you're right. Having him around would be of huge value to any coach. You know, the respect with which he would be held in any dressing room, particularly the Manchester City one, is huge. But at the same time, you've got to ask the player himself, what do you want to do? How much do you want to play? And I think he and Pep will have had those frank and honest conversations.
Geoff, surely we can make a correlation with less Kevin De Bruyne and fewer wins this season, right, for Manchester City. There's got to be something in there, right? Because when this guy, as we've been talking about, was on, they were almost unstoppable, right? And now we're seeing the end of this roster, some injuries, but Kevin De Bruyne is surely a big part of that.
A little bit, Tony, a little bit. But you've got to say as well, I mean, Rodri is often highlighted as the biggest miss this season, and I think that's fair comment. Injuries to other players as well, loss of form for other players. So I think we actually saw the waning of Kevin De Bruyne's career at Manchester City start last season. I don't think this is a new thing for this season. It was already being talked about. How long would he go? How long would he have the influence that he has had in his time at Manchester City. Look, it's impossible to carry on forever. It just doesn't happen. So I wouldn't pin their disappointing season by their stellar standards on Kevin De Bruyne. I think it's a number of other factors. I think he's a component, but certainly not the central one.
Talking about resurgence of teams then, Geoff, where do you see this City team go? One, towards the end of the season, obviously chasing Champions League spot, but do you think we'll see even more of a resurgence come summer with more movement, more big experienced players leaving and, you know, resurgence of youth? Or where do you see it going the end of the season and next year?
Jen, I'm actually quite upbeat about both. I'm quite positive about both for Manchester City. If you took like a thumbnail sketch, obviously no Erling Haaland for the foreseeable future. He's certainly out for a period of time. But Marmoush, when he's come in, he's been absolutely outstanding. He's got 5 goals already. And in fact, since he made his debut for City, only Mo Salah has scored more goals in the Premier League. So I think that's reason to be confident. Again, I don't know how much you've looked at them as well. They play a different way when Marmoush plays. They have more shots, they've got more possession, and in fact, they've had more wins than when Erling Haaland was playing in a certain period as well. So now, of course, I'm not saying Erling Haaland is second to Marmoush. It's just a different City, and you see some of those players that are coming back as well. You know, Oscar Bob came on as sub the other day. Marmoush came on and got the winner against Bournemouth. 2 minutes with him coming on. He got the winner, having replaced Haaland. So those are all really, really positive signs. It means a huge amount for them to get into the Champions League. That's what they want. We know what they want to do in the FA Cup. So they can. I think it'll be important to them to finish on a relatively positive note, and I think they can do that. And then they will go and spend in the summer and replace and replenish.